Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My 32 female brother Nate, 49, married his first wife and had my oldest niece, Zoe, 24 female. Nate cheated on Zoe's mom when Zoe was 6, and they divorced. Zoe's mom took her to another city, and Zoe would come to us for summer vacation. Nate moved his girlfriend in after the divorce, and they had Kim, 17 female. I've always sent Zoe Christmas and birthday cards. She would send me a message a few times a year for updates. We are friends on a few social media platforms, but we're both not very active online. Last year, Zoe said that she's getting married. Our family was happy for her, and Nate said he would help pay for the wedding since both Zoe and her fiancé are both only 24. Zoe thanked him and went about planning her wedding. Recently, Nate found out that Kim is just a guest in Zoe's wedding. He told her she should make her only sister the maid of honor. Zoe said that position was for her best friend, who's been in her life since she was 10. Nate was not happy, but then suggested Kim could be a bridesmaid, and Zoe said no, that although she feels bad for feeling this way, Kim is the proof of him cheating on her mom, and she is uncomfortable having Kim as anything other than a guest at her wedding. Nate then said Zoe needs to make Kim a bridesmaid, or he will pull all the funds from her wedding. When I learned of this, I lost it on my family, especially my parents, asking why they can back Nate up on such a thing. They said they agree that it is a little mean, but this needs to be done to keep the family together. How can Zoe get married and not have her only sister involved at all? I happen to be doing rather well financially. I called Zoe to console her and asked her how she planned to proceed with the wedding. Zoe said they would scale down the wedding. It would be a shame, but it was the only way her fiancé and she could pay it on their own. I asked for the difference, and since it was only just over $10,000, I told Zoe she could consider it a wedding gift from me and she could have her dream wedding. Zoe was ecstatic. She said I gave her the ability to really have her wedding the way she wanted it. My family were mad at me when they learned what I did. Kim was actually crying and said she was looking forward to being a bridesmaid at the wedding, and I ruined everything. Nate said Zoe wouldn't even let him walk her down the aisle now, and my parents added that all their extended family and friends will talk about how dysfunctional our family is. My family gave me such grief that I wonder, am I the a-hole? Zoe is not close to Kim. Kim is the product of OP's brother's infidelity. She doesn't get a front row seat, albeit no fault of her own. Kim's parents should not have put such foolish notions in Kim's head in the first place. And OP's brother is totally dysfunctional. How can he think that Kim should be in the bridal party when the two girls have no relationship? Basically, he's using his money to make the affair child feel better. And if mom was so worried about gossip, she should have raised a better son. OP absolutely did the right thing. And now let's see if the community agrees with me. Emergency Kind says, not the a-hole. You are a saint. Zoe isn't snubbing people or making it a big deal to exclude people. She's just not going out of her way to appease other people's unreasonable requests for her wedding. And the fact that Kim said she was looking forward to being a bridesmaid at the wedding and saying you ruined that means that she was promised that her dad would be able to manipulate Zoe into giving her what she wanted. That doesn't sound like a loving father or half-sister that's bothered or hurt by the lacking relationship with Zoe. That's a couple of self-pitying a-holes who are willing to use Zoe to get something they want and are upset that they've been denied the chance to take advantage of her. Also, being in a wedding party is a big responsibility. Being the maid of honor even more so. Is the 17-year-old going to plan the bachelorette party, attend wedding dress shopping, coordinate the other bridesmaids, be someone the bride can lean on for emotional support, protect the bride from unnecessary stress? It's not a prize or a gift you just give to a child because they want it. If she wants to put on a pretty dress for a fancy party, she can save it for junior prom. BBQ Quail says, not the a-hole. Go aunt, go. Zoe should be able to have her wedding the way she wants to, and your supporting funds help her with that. Now she gets to cherish this happy memory for the rest of her life. Your family, from what you say here, is definitely dysfunctional, and I bet the extended family and friends already know this. A bit too late to try to save face now if you ask me. Spare Article 396 says, absolutely unequivocally not the a-hole. Your brother and your parents are the a-holes. Zoe had a super valid reason, and even having her sister and her dad at the wedding was gracious enough. It also sounds like your parents enable your a-hole bro. You're an awesome aunt. Recently, my father-in-law sent our son a check as a Christmas gift for over $1,000. I think we should void it and send it back to him since we have decided that we won't be letting our son have a relationship with him. My wife hasn't decided what to do with it, and I haven't told her my opinion yet. Would I be the a-hole for telling her to send it back to him? I know this will probably come up, so here is the background on why we don't want him in our son's life. A year before we got married, my wife's mother, M for short, was diagnosed with cancer. A few months into treatment, my wife's father, F for short, announced to the family that he was cheating on M and would be leaving her to live with his mistress. M and F got a divorce, and custody of my wife's little sister, LS for short, went to M. After a while, it looked like M was not responding well to chemo, so they tried to perform surgery to try and remove the tumors, but it did not go well, and during surgery, M passed. This was a pretty rough time for my wife and LS, and it was made worse when the day before the funeral, F showed up and said he was there to take LS to live with him and his mistress. I was there and had to forcibly remove him from the house to keep my wife and LS together. The next day at the funeral, F was mad at my wife for not including him as family on the funeral program, and then tried again to take LS. A family friend who is a cop stopped him. A few weeks after, we had a custody hearing where F said a lot of nasty things about my wife, ranging from being a D addict to kidnapping. Then, he also threw in that he suspected I would take advantage of LS if I was ever left alone with her, while F's mother sat on the stand as a witness and confirmed all of his claims. The court sided with my wife, and she ended up with the same custody agreement as M and F had before. Since then, our only interaction with him has been to remind him when his visitation hours are, that they are for LS only and our son is not included in visitation, and to explain repeatedly that the state determines what he pays in child support for LS, not us. So we are pretty confident we aren't being a-holes for not letting him see our son. Nowhere in your story do I come remotely close to thinking you or your wife are a-holes. Not the a-hole. It is a great idea to reject all gifts from the offending party. Return all without comment. If gifts are accepted or checks cashed, it sends mixed messages to him, and he may try to wreak more havoc upon you and your loved ones. Not the a-hole. She needs to send it back. He might use the fact that she took that money against her if she decides to take it. Be cautious. Don't let him get any upper hand at any point. They say you're not supposed to talk badly about the dead, so that's why I didn't want to do it. I'm 21, haven't been close to my dad in years. He cheated on my mom when I was 10 and left her. A year after that, he married his mistress and tried to get full custody of me so we could be a family. I purposely made his life hell whenever I was over at his place until he gave up and let me stay at my mom's full time. Never forgave him for how badly he hurt my mom, and he didn't seem to care. Always cared more about having a proper family and got annoyed whenever I brought up his cheating. Last time we talked, I was 16. He was angry because he wanted me to meet my new half-brother, and I told him to stay out of my life. He finally got the hint that I didn't want anything to do with him or his family, so he stopped. I heard from other family that he was getting treatment for pancreatic cancer a while back, but it wasn't looking good. Well, he died. Didn't really feel much about it when I heard. But his mistress reached out through my dad's sister and said she knows that my dad and I haven't had a relationship. But as his first son, my dad wanted me to say a few words at the funeral. She also agreed it felt only right that as his kid I'd say something, and it would seem odd to his family if I didn't. See, cause my dad never told his extended family what a cheater he was. He always told them they just divorced and then he met this other lady. They also don't know we're not close. I told her there was no way that's happening and I wasn't even gonna go. Well, this lady got all upset and crying on the phone, talking about him being a good man and how he should be able to have his first child speak about him, that I have no idea how hard it's been on their family, their kids, etc. And I told her there was literally nothing I had to say that'll suggest he was a good person and to leave me alone. I told her she and him have ruined enough of my life already, so stop dragging me through more. She begged me to change my mind, but I hung up and blocked her number. Now she's gone crying to my aunt, and even she's surprised I'm not going. She doesn't know either what really went down. only that I stopped talking to my dad after the divorce, and she believes I need to do this for him since that's what he wanted. She's saying stuff about being callous, and how hard could it be to say a few nice things about him. She's not pushing me to go, but basically that I would be a bit of an a-hole if I didn't. Which is why I'm here, I guess. Before I get those commenters saying to go, I already made up my mind about not going and not gonna change it. Just asking if I'm the a-hole for it. Not the a-hole. You can tell your aunt that if you spoke, you would tell the mourners that your father cheated on his first wife, hurting her and you terribly, and never cared about the pain he caused because he had his new family. How he took you away from your mother and tried to force you into a relationship with his side piece, that you refused and had to force him to let you live with your mother, that you haven't spoken with him in years. You feel no sadness at his death, and that, true to fashion, for your father were forced to speak at his service. Once again, and finally putting himself ahead of his son and his son's feelings. You can then ask if they still want you there. That should stop them. Not the a-hole, but I must say, personally, I don't really care about the rule, don't speak ill of the dead. It's bad enough he cheated with the woman he married. Now his actions haunt you from beyond the grave, and she is trying to strong-arm you with tears and dragging family onto her side to get you to speak a bunch of fake words to fake people, to make him look like a nice dad. Personally, I'd write an emotionless letter to all of the family, my family, not his, about what he did, what he tried to do to you, and lastly, that you have no intention about ever being involved in his life and his death. That is not speaking ill, it is the truth, and you just want to be left alone. My wife recently passed away. However, we have been legally separated for almost 2 years and filed for divorce. Among the reasons for divorce were that she had an affair and became an alcoholic. She refused to do anything to address it. I begged her relentlessly to please seek help, go to rehab, etc. And after years of refusing, I couldn't watch her do this to herself. She died from liver failure. I sat with her in doctor's offices and heard them tell her if she didn't stop drinking, she would be dead by 40. It finally happened. The divorce had not been finalized yet, as we were required to be separated for at least a year, and COVID happened, and courts closed. I also allowed her to maintain on my medical insurance, as she had many issues over the years related to her alcoholism. During the marriage, we purchased life insurance policies for both of us. Each are for several $100,000. After our separation, she moved me as the beneficiary and named her parents instead. Since she passed, her parents have taken the lead in planning her funeral. She will be buried in a plot that her parents purchased for them and her other family members in her hometown, which is several hundred miles from where we lived while married. Unbeknownst to me, as her parents were planning everything, they were telling all of the vendors that OP would be paying for everything. I did not know this until I received an email invoice for several $1,000s. This is only a fraction of what the total costs will end up being. I immediately called her mother to discuss and told her I had not agreed to pay for her funeral, and in fact, these costs are exactly why I bought the life insurance policies years ago. They say that they do not have much money at the moment, which is not true, and that they figured I would pay anyway because I do have a lot of money. I do have a very good job and could afford to pay for it without a significant impact on my quality of life. However, I do not feel I should be the one paying for the funeral, especially since they are going to significantly benefit financially from her death. Her mom was to call me back when both she and her father could be on the phone. I never got a call back. I received only a condescending text message trying to make me feel guilty. I have since let them know that I will pay for a very small portion of the funeral to make sure that it can proceed, but I will not be paying for anything else. The religious service. My ex was not religious, her parents are. The flowers, the luncheon for relatives afterward, which is at a restaurant she hated, etc. I also informed them I will no longer be attending the funeral next week. I visited my ex in the hospital before she passed and have made my peace with her and her death. I feel as if I'm just being taken advantage of. So, am I the a-hole for not paying for the funeral expenses and not attending the funeral? Not the a-hole. If you were still the beneficiary of her life insurance plan, I'd have a completely different stance. But her funeral should be paid for from her life insurance policy. OP, do not pay anything. The minute you pay even $1, you agree that the bill is yours. Right now, the funeral home is going on the word of someone else that you are paying. They have no legal agreement from you to pay. I warn you very, very strongly. Do not pay anything. Talk to your lawyer before agreeing to pay even 1 red cent. My ex-husband, 31, and I, 30, divorced 2 years ago. We share custody of our 5-year-old son. I moved out before the divorce and lived with my mom for a while. Recently, I bought a 1-story house using my dad's inheritance, and I moved in with my mom and my son very recently. His father comes to pick him up and then drop him off on certain days. After I moved into the new house, he had a conversation with me about wanting a copy of the key to the house. I felt weirded out by this request, but he explained that since I'm at work whenever he drops our son off, and he needs the key to get in and make our son something to eat and/or prepare his bed. I told him I have my mom there and she takes care of that. He said it's not up to me, and that he would like to have full access in any place his son is at. I got upset and called him ridiculous. He lashed back, calling me unreasonable, and that him getting a copy of the key was supposed to be a no-brainer, and said he didn't even understand how this is even a debate. I told him to leave, but he got his mom involved, and she kept scolding me about trying to limit her son's access to his own child and acting stubborn about the key thing when this house supposed to be the common area for us since my son lives here, so his dad should have access to it. I refused, and Mom started arguing with his mom, which caused a huge mess. I feel like my joy in this new house is now ruined, but I'm unsure if he has a valid argument here. Edit. He also told me he'd do the same if he was in my place and promised that he'd make me a copy of the key once he gets his own house. He lives with his mom as of now. Not up to you. Not up to you. What has this guy been smoking? It is entirely up to you, as it is your home. That lashing out should be a big red flag as to why he shouldn't have a key to your home. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, and I would be very, very cautious going for it. It's a huge red flag he wants access to your house, and this is not normal between divorced couples. Not the a-hole. If it's no-brainer to have a key to your home, then I'd tell him to take it up with the court, because I'm pretty sure the judge will laugh him out of the court because he has no right to demand a copy of your key just because you share a son.